Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Data Faces podcast. I'm David Sweenor, founder of TinyTechGuides and your host for today's show. In this show, I talk with the people who are actually making data, analytics, AI, and marketing work in the real world. What's exciting, what's messy, what's coming next. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's quietly transforming how sales teams learn, coach, and perform: the use of AI in sales enablement. From onboarding new hires to developing top performers, AI is changing how we practice, measure, and improve, not just through data, but through behavioral insights. Joining me today, I'm pleased to say we have Matt Magne, Senior Enablement Manager of Revenue Enablement at LaunchDarkly. He's been experimenting with AI to help sales engineers and AEs ramp faster and learn more effectively, blending human coaching with the machine for some really innovative ways. So we're digging into what's working, what's not, and the future of enablement is headed. So let's get into it. Matt, welcome to the Data Faces podcast.
Thanks, David. It's great to be here.
Super excited to have you. So can you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what does LaunchDarkly do?
All right, I'll start out with myself. So I am the technical sales enablement manager over at LaunchDarkly. I've been coining myself lately as the AI-powered Silicon Valley sales enablement guy. But I used to be a coder. I used to be a sales engineer. I was actually even a product marketer for a little while. And I've done a TED Talk, as you and I've talked about before. And I play guitar, as you can see, in a couple of bands in my town.
Okay. And what's LaunchDarkly do?
Yeah, so LaunchDarkly is this awesome, I'd say, late stage startup. I think we're Series D right now. What we do, and this is my analogy for it, is imagine putting up Christmas lights or your favorite holiday lights, and you go up on your roof and you get your clothes all dirty, and you install, like maybe in January, you install some green lights and some white lights, red lights, and blue lights. And then in February, you crawl off the ladder after you've installed them. They're not on yet. And then in February for Valentine's Day, you just turn on the red ones, and then you turn them off in March. Then St. Patty's Day comes on, you turn on the green ones. And then just to cut to the chase here, you move to Christmas time, and you turn on the red and the green ones. And each time you do this, you're not having to climb back up on the roof. You're not having to get your clothes dirty, take another shower. And so that's what LaunchDarkly does for software features. So basically, it decouples deploy from release, and it allows you to essentially roll out features, expose them to only a few select users in what are called progressive rollouts. Like the analogy is you show like maybe the lights to your neighbor that you have a beer with in the garage first. And then when he gives you the thumbs up, you show it to the rest of the neighborhood. And then we have observability and experimentation capabilities that allow you to test different AI models you might use when you're deploying. So we can speed up some of those or increase more the percentage of AI initiatives that show value. So it's a really great product. We established that feature management category and then continue to innovate. And it's been really exciting. I've been here about 8 months now.
Wow, super cool, Matt. So Matt, that is super cool. It sounds like there's no shortage of software in the world. So before you got to this position, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you think you were going to be senior manager of technical enablement?
Oh, that's funny. I had no idea. I mean, I love computers, so definitely knew a computer would be in my future. Since I worked with date myself a little bit, the Commodore 64, and I just love them. And I would create little database applications for my dad's company. He created a startup back then as well. So yeah, I just gravitate towards areas where I can develop some form of expertise, and then help people, coach them, train them around us. Anywhere where I use this analogy: SACO, solver, advisor, connector, optimizer. So anytime I'm doing most of those four things, I'm in a pretty good spot.
That's pretty cool. And then I noticed you probably have the most unique LinkedIn profile URL. I believe it's X Rocker. And I see a guitar in your background. Tell us a little bit about your musical journey.
Yeah, I mean, my dad had a band a long time ago, And so we always had bands coming over in the basement and practicing. And I just kind of, I just fell in love with amps and guitars. And I ended up finally after college starting a band, and we got onto MTV Road Rules, and I did a TED talk.
Cool.
Not us personally, like our music got picked
Right.
up by the soundtrack, which, and it wasn't like, I think we got a few dollars out of it, but we had a whole listening party or watching party, and I heard 12 seconds of my guitar on MTV. So we used to say, the name of the band was Beverage, and it was as heard on MTV for 12 seconds.
I like that. That's amazing. Awesome. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about AI
Yeah.
and sales enablement.
Hmm.
Could you just describe to people who are not immersed in sales, or we're calling it revenue enablement now, I think, what is involved in the whole function, and why do B2B companies need it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in less mature companies, product marketing, or there's some team of people that naturally does this kind of on the side. It's not a formal dedicated role, but essentially it just bridges the gap between a lot of the GTM teams. And the primary focus is usually on some kind of ramping and increasing the speed with which you can onboard new sales reps and sales engineers and customer success managers and SDRs. And so it's at least that piece where you're ramping them faster, they're coming on board quicker, and the burn rate on these guys in terms of the amount of salary and such, where they're not delivering or driving deals. That's where the urgency comes in with a team like which our team right now is called Revenue Enablement, but it's been sales enablement. And so generally what happens is you hire one director or such, and they focus on helping everybody. So they're mapped like 1 to 100. Then they bring on a persona-based one. Like I focus on solution engineering teams, technical people in the GTM world. And then maybe there's an SDR specialist, and maybe there's a CSM specialist. But essentially we're helping them to ramp, helping to drive more ARR across the board, and identifying and gaps in enablement, like new messaging, they don't know how to position it, or maybe it's objection handling, or maybe it's like lately we've been focusing on AI readiness, right? Ramping people up in terms of just having a conversation about, what are all the components of the AI ecosystem and how our solution might be able to help you. So a lot of folks shy away from that. They know AI from ChatGPT, like most of us do, but they maybe don't know, they don't know the difference between like a context window and, like, why does that matter? Why does token usage matter? Why does latency matter? Things like that.
Okay. And so this sounds like a tall order. So we have new employees come in, and you focus on the technical piece of it. They need to understand the technology. So what problem were you trying to solve? We talked a little bit about, we're back and forth on email anyways, about role playing. So what problem were you trying to solve? Fundamentally using AI for role playing. Like what was broken with the existing process?
Yeah, it's interesting. So what happened was we had an LMS, or learning management system, just kind of like an online course builder. And we needed to essentially create or speed up how fast people got up to speed with, getting conversant and comfortable having conversations with different personas. And that's one of the biggest leading indicators of success, right? Just getting into deals and talking to people and having confidence and authority and empathy and good listening skills and things like that. And so it was actually a board level initiative, I believe, in terms of bringing this on, but we found an LMS that has both. And they're all kind of nascent. We probably evaluated 6 of them. And in the end, we ended up with one that was a combined strong online course builder / LMS, and an AI role play could be embedded within the flow. So you can imagine a demo certification or a pitch certification for an AE, where you come in and before you do your pitch, you hear the wiggle, what good looks like, and then you get a chance to practice with this AI role play. And the driver of it is, again, speeding ramp, getting them up to speed with having these conversations and being confident about it. And also just freeing up manager coaching time, right? Because the managers are also slammed trying to ramp all these new folks up, especially if you're in a hyper growth for startup. So that's basically the driver of it, is increasing confidence. And the other piece of it, what we found out later, is, I don't know if you've ever been part of or tried to do like a breakout session in a webinar or something, and it's usually you get a lot of people will drop off and be like, "Oh, I gotta go,"
Yeah, sure.
anything but a human, right? So what's happening now is they can just kind of practice on their own, and they don't hit the submit button until they need to, until they get it right.
Right.
So they can
Okay.
practice like 7 times. And we had one that was a few dozen times that they're practicing this stuff until they hit the submit button. And so that's what you want, in enablement, you want this kind of like spaced repetition.
Yep.
Ideally. And so basically imagine before you do your pitch and upload your pitch or upload your demo as an SE, you actually get some at-bats and practice talking to the persona. And that's the value of it, is that not only as they're ramping, they get more practice before they deal with, you don't take a human out of the process, but you just give them more practices and at-bats before they upload their certification and then maybe do a live role play with a human.
Okay. And what's the reaction towards this role play with AI versus a human? Do they like it better? Do they prefer the human? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing that they prefer to do it because it's basically,
So they prefer the bot.
they prefer the bot. I mean,
Okay.
think about it. Like if you're ramping, like, so I'll just say for a sales engineer, you're ramping, or a solution engineer, you're ramping, and you can practice with maybe your trusted buddy if you've got a buddy, or like a mentorship kind of thing,
Right.
or it's your manager, or it's me, right? And all of those are kind of a little high risk, right? In the sense of there's just a lot of pressure to
Well, you don't want to
deliver.
sound like an idiot in front of your boss,
Yeah.
number one.
And so what do we do, with any presentation we do, we'll go and practice it. For me, it's like, just practice it 3 times until you're confident. And then it's just easier. And you can kind of become a little more audible ready and move around in the conversation easier. But it helps them to just practice before they get on the spot with a person. And this is kind of like, I mean, I'm guessing you're going to ask this question later, but basically there's this kind of augmentation piece, human in the loop piece, where I don't think that AI, it's getting amazingly smart, but I don't think that you can't remove a human from this process yet.
Right.
But, I think we're far off from that. I don't think you want to, but you can use it to augment myself, like how I scale up, because I'm mapped like 1 to like 40 right now. And an AE enablement manager might be 1 to 100 in a startup, or 1 to, so it's ramping, it's helping us to scale. It's helping managers to scale that might have 5 or 10 folks that they have to coach and do, to walk through deals and things like this. And it's also giving them more at-bats for that space repetition piece, and just, reducing the, the Ebbinghaus memory loss that they're going to go through if they just watch somebody doing it.
That's a pretty fancy word right there. The Ebbinghaus memory loss. All right, very good. Well, can you tell us, why do traditional sales, enablement, revenue enablement programs, do they fail to keep up with sort of today's B2B buying, cycle? It's, it's so complex these days. As a marketer, you're like, oh, you're trained to think about top of funnel, middle of funnel, whatever, and linear, but it's not. It's just like, it's a web of chaos, and there's buying groups. It's more than one person. So how does revenue enablement, deal with this? Can they keep up with it? Traditional programs without AI, is it, or just there's no way you're going to do it?
I think it's the scale piece, right? Like just dropping that in there. Because yeah, you're right. Like, so you start out with your RKO or your CKO at the beginning of the year, and you roll out new messaging or new features or new products and things like that. And then there's such a inclination, because now all these new features, 6 months, 9 months in, there's so much pressure to change the messaging and change the high level, and you'll tweak it here and there. But that's the challenge, is scaling. All of us are just delivering what we have and the gaps we're identifying. Now you're going to change everything, the foundation of what we're talking about underneath the hood. And I think you and I have been through kind of the, the messaging update or the platform update or whatever the new update is of the messaging, and then here's all the new demos, here's the new script, and it's not a trivial thing. And the tendency for leadership, unless they've been through this, or they're kind of paying attention to it, right, because they're busy doing their own, driving ARR and such, is that they maybe think that we do a webinar and boom, everybody's enabled. Well, we did a webinar. What's going on?
Exactly. They know it. They've learned everything from that 30-minute webinar. Okay.
Yeah. And then if I think about, I always use the guitar example when I'm talking about kind of like this space repetition. If I grab this guitar and I play and just kind of go da 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 da, like here's my.
Well, let's hear it.
Here's my demo. Right? You probably can't hear it if there's a noise suppression, but.
Oh yeah, perfect.
So that's my spaced repetition, right? If I grab the guitar and I do that 5 minutes at a time, not a lot, or if anybody at home wants to learn guitar, just do that on all 6 strings
Right.
every day for 5 minutes for a week, and guaranteed that spaced repetition and that reinforcement will lock in your finger memory, your muscle memory on your fingers. And the next time you try to play chords and you do the more advanced kind of like structures on the guitar, or want to sing while you're playing guitar, you've done the basics over and over and over. You've practiced, and now you can deliver in a performance, on a Zoom call with a customer or a prospect. But you've got the basics down because you've practiced them. So that's, I mean, the same concept of just how do we uh, reduce the amount you're going to forget? How do we apply the knowledge in the session if we can? That's where the AI role play comes in. You can do that before the session, then have a session where we talk about it, take questions, do breakouts where we do live practice, but you've already practiced before the session. And then afterwards, maybe we'll do a score to make sure that you're over 80% of hitting the mark on like kind of some kind of score with your manager's involvement.
Okay.
And then
Well,
later, I'll add the other thing, the inspection of how that actually, now you know all this stuff, you've got the basics, you've got the spaced repetition. Are you applying that in the deal on the calls? And that's the other piece, is sometimes the confidence just never gets there, where now I'm going to start talking about AI with AI engineers and devs that are focused on the AI process internally. But if you don't have that, if you're not armed for the conversation and we're not inspecting to make sure that you're actually doing it after the fact, it's like, did you ever learn it? And if you don't continue to practice it, like if I don't practice or play out for a month, my fingers are going to atrophy. They're just not going to be as nimble.
okay. That's very interesting. So can we maybe just double click down? So I'm a
Yeah.
new SE at your company.
Yeah.
What does what does the program look like that I'm going to go through? And what parts are AI? What parts are human?
Yeah. It's really just augmentation, right? The, so the way that I would do it, the way I would build it is, you've got some kind of like combined set of live enablement, and then a static set of, it's not, I mean, static in the moment, of an online course essentially. But
Sure.
you have to have embedded in that some kind of application of knowledge and an opportunity to have back and forth with people and conversations about it. So embedded within that, so for example, like the demo cert example I gave before, as part of the onboarding for new SEs or new AEs, we're going to have AI role play in place for all of the different kind of major value drivers in our, so for us, it'd be like AI, experimentation, observability / guarded releases, that type of
Mhm.
thing would be, we would say, practice this pitch using
Right.
AI. And
Sure.
then the other piece of that is so that's one aspect of AI. Then now upload your pitch. You practice it 5 times, or we don't know how many times I can see in the system, but I mean, one person I saw practice it upwards of over 50 times, right?
Wow.
So yeah, and we build them like that for SDRs, especially because they cycle so fast and they have to ramp so fast that, hey, here's 6 different personas you're going to be talking to, and right before you jump on a phone with one, practice 3 times. And they're not big ones, they're 5 or 10 minute practices, and then you jump on the call, because I can give you all the messaging, all the proof matrices, I can give you all the value drivers in onboarding, and your brain's full. And it doesn't mean anything until you get on a call and you have to summarize in one sentence like the
Sure.
value of this solution. And that's where the rubber meets the road, and where people kind of fall apart generally. But if you practice it, you're like, oh, you feel that adrenaline rush, and then you actually deliver it. And the AIs are surprisingly good. Like, I've had veterans come to me and say, that was actually pretty helpful. Like, so
Okay.
I can understand new folks coming in, like we'll hire for a lot of times, we'll bring a software engineer in because that's our key persona we sell to, engineering managers, VPs of engineering and devs.
Yep.
So we'll have someone that's a software engineer come in, and then we have to round them out to ramp up on the sales side of the house. And so it's a great way to get them to practice that type of stuff.
Hmm. So Matt, we've worked together at a couple different companies now, but there was always a big like live event, like a culmination. You do some pre work, then everybody goes shows up and does this sort of live training with exercises, and this develops this camaraderie essentially after at a dinner or drinks or what have you. Is there room for that these days? Are companies still doing that, or is the live component sort of just not there anymore?
Yeah, I mean, so the company that I just came from before, uh, we did quarterly boot camps pretty much for about
Hmm.
the 3+ years I was there. Um, so we vary between. I think most organizations are varying between. They're looking at costs of flying everybody out, things like
Yeah.
that. So I think either way, it's part of the process. To me, they're just building blocks,
Right.
and you've got the onboarding AI or not. You got to learn a certain thing, value drivers, messaging, competitors, stuff like that. Then we need some way for you to apply that knowledge. It might be, we have some online labs that technical people can use to do that virtually.
Right.
But then you're jumping on a call with your buddy, and you're pitching a demo to them and getting feedback. So I think just when you look at the cost structure of flying everybody out, for sure, like you have to do a balance of this hybrid,
Right.
live slash virtual learning.
Okay. And are there any reps or people coming into your program that are sort of resistant to training with a bot? Are they like, I don't trust this thing, or have you seen that, or everybody's pretty open to it?
Everybody's pretty open to it. I mean, it's tough to get like a direct negative response sometimes from people that, when they come in new, they're going to be high sycophancy. Let's put it that way,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
they're so excited.
They're
You
going to be
got the
nice.
rose-colored glasses on. Everything is great until they get into it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, so it's hard to get sometimes the direct feedback. Sales engineers, on the other hand, I find, are really, because we're so good at solving problems.
Yep.
I think there's this natural. We're really good at being critical, basically, and so I find it easier to get direct, honest, I'll call it constructive feedback from sales engineers than maybe account executives.
Hmm.
Uh, but you'll get that. You have to just sit in one-on-one and have that. But the feedback we get is that because they can do it, the big piece is there's less stress when you're just sitting there practicing on a bot. And the
Right.
bots are getting good. Like, I don't know if a year ago they were there. But and just to color this a little bit more, like, once you do the presentation, I've heard, there's two pieces where the AI kicks in. It's the role play practice, and then it gives you feedback is the other piece. And I can tell it, hey, give them feedback on what went well, where they can improve on these three, markers. Like,
Right.
what is your energy in that? And some of the role plays will do really deep analysis on, like, they actually say things like, you were boring at 1 minute and 7
Oh my gosh.
to 110.
Oh boy.
Or, you were inspiring, so there was one that had just this total, like, emotional, like, diorama of all the different ways what you could be. Or one of them was vibes. That was a pretty cool one that we liked when we were looking at it. It was like, you had really good vibes in this call.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Does, do you,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was wondering, do you give the bots? Do you give them like character names? Like, act like, I don't know. I've
Yeah.
said this before in my podcast, but like my AIs always talk like the dude from The Big Lebowski for whatever reason. That's, or you could have it talk like Austin Powers. Do you give them like characters to play?
So we evaluate like 6 of these things, and the more advanced ones, they had varying levels of different things they were good at. But the most advanced ones absolutely did that. You could change the sex, race, everything. The demeanor, make it super nice, make it super ornery, like shut
Yeah.
you down. And so you could definitely do that. The one that we ended up going with is going to introduce that in like a few like weeks, I believe.
Sure. Okay.
But right now, I've got one dude and one picture. But the cool thing about it is it feels like a more fluid, real conversation. Some of them you have to hit the space bar every time you finish, things like
Oh,
that.
right,
Because
right.
you're consuming AI model tokens every time you submit, you know, underneath the hood. It's
Yeah.
taking AI
Yeah. You don't
tokens
want
and
to get
learning
like
it.
an oops. Oh, Matt, you just spent $5,000 on, on training or whatever.
I think companies are gonna. That's the challenge, is right. How do you price this stuff? Because the token usage is so highly variable, and how do you optimize that, and how do you choose the right model that has the right blend of accuracy and
Mhm.
cost to do this. But anyway, so I'll give you one example. I called, it was I am. So the first name was I am and the last name was Groot, because we had a big Guardians of the Galaxy
Right,
like kickoff.
right.
So I was trying to keep thematically correct. but yeah, I just keep changing it. Right now it's a dude and we can't change it. But
Okay.
we'll be able to change the voice, change the, you can kind of change the demeanor a little bit in the prompt engineering of it. But it's really cool. Like you basically essentially say, hey, you are the VP of engineering. Your name is I am Groot. And you have these problems. And if they ask nicely, you should reveal them. And you should be kind of like open to a meeting if they ask these questions. And you should make sure. And then here's a set of objections that you should use. And here's a set of questions you should ask.
Okay.
And then here's the expectations of each one of those. So you kind of program it. It's not a heavy lift, maybe an hour or so to get it right, and then practice with it. And then, but it surprisingly fills in the blanks. That's the thing that amazes me. You give it like a 2,000 character prompt and it fills in a lot of the blanks.
Oh yeah, one I've been using lately is number one, be brutally honest and like because hey, review this block coming out as like oh yeah, it's great. And I'm like, be brutally honest. Well, it's a C-. I'm like, oh well, thanks.
Yeah.
That's one of them. It's there's a lot of them. The other one I found that's very useful to me is act as a skeptical buyer and react to this pitch. And it comes back with things I'm like, oh gosh, I haven't even thought of some of these. So the skeptical buyer, if you have a chance to put that in, to give that one a whirl.
I like that's a good one. I'm gonna take that note because
yeah,
it's definitely, and the piece that the one that we have, some of them just like projects in ChatGPT, you can upload a set of like background material. In this, I think it's just using the training data, which is probably just the web, which is surprisingly really helpful. But future ones, you can upload a set of documents, say, hey, look at these documents and, like
here's our messaging or whatever you want, case studies, things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess as we move forward with this notion, we're going to have, the human and machine collaboration. What's the balance between AI and, maybe the intuition of a human manager, may have, who's been, selling things. And because sometimes AI says stuff, it might not really work. I see it all the time. It's like, your web page must have this. I'm like, I don't want that. Well, why don't you? It argues with me because I programmed it to. But so what's the balance between the human machine collaboration?
Human and machine. Yeah. I mean, so the way we do it, as I mentioned before, like it's like you do the one example of that kind of hybrid is always the right answer, by the way, right? Whenever it's like, it's got to be a blend, but we do like for the demo certs, we do it where it's like, you do the at-bats with the AI role play. It gives you feedback. The feedback I've heard is actually useful. It sometimes hallucinates, which is not great, but it's 90% of the time pretty dead on, right? And 6 months ago, 12 months ago, I probably couldn't say that. So it's getting, it's getting to the point where you're like, oof, that was pretty smart. Like, wow. Okay. And it's like kind of the feedback I would give them or something I didn't think of. Then wired into that is this other piece where, okay, now upload the pitch. You've seen what good looks like. You've had app practices. You've maybe done it 3 times. Now you're going to upload, give us your pitch deck or your demo and record yourself delivering it. That also gives you an AI coach. And that one we're using SalesHood that uses there's a prompt I put in there that says, look for these things that's mapped to the human score that we're going to give them. I could choose to make it just use the AI score only, and then they're done.
Okay. Right.
And I've seen some people, the use cases like prepare for a conference. Here's the new messaging. Here's how if you hear these competitors mention these things. So that's a great way to kind of automate it where you don't want a human in the loop. Right.
Okay.
But if you want a human, and it's kind of like, the agentic approach of human in a loop or LLM as judge, right? This is kind of like, it's not really an agent, but it's that kind of mentality of after the bot conversation, after the AI coach response and prompt response, now you've got 2 pieces of feedback, a bunch of practice. Now your manager, maybe a week later, 2 weeks later, is going to review that and then give you some feedback and maybe talk to you about it. And so you've got that spaced repetition, you've got the human in the loop. And by the way, like in our situation, we don't use the AI score in that case because it tends to over rotate on, like you said, too many times, or you didn't say success or specific words. So I just use it as, it does give you words per minute. It gives you tone. It gives you, time. And those are useful for you to know. I'm always just trying to give people feedback to metacognate on what they're doing well and where they can improve. And then, because that's really when you win, right? Because like I said, I'm mapped 1 to 40 or something like that. So I can only be with people so much of the day. And so the more
one person each hour of the week, Matt,
right, exactly. And then I need to build these things too. But then, then the manager scores it. and they have a conversation about it. And also, by the way, the manager is getting coaching skills here. They can look at the feedback. They can look at the other pieces. You can see examples of all your peers and how they're doing it. You can look at the
Sure.
ones that got scored a 10 already. Oh, well, let me. So right away, they're doing all this learning instead of like, imagine the before image of this, the current, the previous state, where you do it once in front of your manager, they give you feedback, or you do it a few times, and it's just the impact to a manager in terms of coaching that is limited. And so you're just trying to scale and augment the human intervention.
Right. So we're getting close to the end of time, but I have maybe a couple more questions. So you've been in sales enablement for a while, pre AI and post AI,
Hmm.
and you've talked about scale a lot. What does AI beyond scale provide? What are the benefits to having this digital workforce that you have essentially working for you? Is like an example, is the quality of the content better? You can do more training. I'm just curious, kind of, what do you see as sort of beyond I can do more with less? What are the other things that the benefits you're getting from this?
I guess I do over rotate on the productivity piece, because like, here's a big gap. Like, for me to build these things, it's not terrible, right? It's like an hour or two to build a new one or something like that.
Hmm.
But a big thing we get in enablement all the time is like, hey, can we just like run that through for every AE in the company and just, make sure they listen to these things? And like, I would love, it's another angle on productivity, but it's basically like, I would love to say, hey, here's a video, build me an LMS, with a quiz,
Hmm.
chunk it up intelligently, into 4-minute videos instead of one big 30 or 60-minute video.
Right.
And you've gone through my onboarding, I think, so you know what it's like.
Right.
and then,
I mean,
and
it was where
then
it's transitioned, so I had to watch a 45-minute thing, but then I did prefer
I
the
know it's
snackable,
hard.
2 to 3 minute
Yeah,
deals.
and you're always balancing your bandwidth and then the bandwidth of the consumer or learner. And so like demo certifications, POV certifications, pitch certifications, stuff like that. That's the broad strokes you're doing on a quarterly basis. Then you're doing live enablement, updated messaging. It's tough.
Mhm.
So that's one piece. It's the AI productivity piece there. The other ones is, I'm trying to think of one that's not a productivity, but
Well,
that's how I think of
can
it.
you have more personalized training? Do you think the quality of the material is better, compared to, pre AI? You mentioned, hey, we used to create 30, 45-minute videos. Like, I'm sure they weren't very good now reflecting on it. They're good at the time.
We still do
But
that because in my opinion, for example, the video editing stuff is not there yet. Like, I love this was a Synthesia, the one that I think you shared that with me like a year ago. But they're still not there in terms of intelligently identifying the clips that are the most important. I don't know
uh,
how it would actually do it.
I think you got to be like some sort of sports. I think they're really good at that, but sort of like a talking head podcast. I don't think they're great at
Yeah,
that.
they're great at, like, yeah, we had on my son with soccer, where it's like, okay, here's the 5 seconds before the shot. They're great at, like, a score happened, so now take the video 5 seconds before the score and have the
Exactly. They look for
player. So that
movement and things like that.
beautiful usage of that, right? So that's what I would love if someone could build that somehow intelligently, take a 60-minute enablement session on architectural patterns, or common objection handling, and basically just truncate it into a 7-minute video somehow magically. That's my holy grail. That's one of my
Okay.
holy grails right there. And then the other
Okay.
one is like, just take this video, build a quiz. I can do it. Like, it's fantastic. I can put the transcript into ChatGPT, boom, hit a button. And some of the LMSs will do this automatically, where you upload the asset and it says, would you like me to generate a quiz out of this?
Yeah.
Sure. Or like, you've seen it where, here's the script, here's my face, make a video of me delivering the script in French, right? So
Exactly.
some of
Yeah.
that stuff exists and it's pretty good, right? But
Okay.
we're trying to make it, I want to make enablement as fun and as we can. Sometimes we can't. We just don't have time to do all this stuff. But that's where I would love to see, like, the holy grail is probably the videos, where I just like would love to just truncate it to the 40% of the video that is the most valuable, without a
Yeah.
human going through it for 2 hours and editing it.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
video is a pain in the butt. So I think maybe our final question, Matt, and we could talk about this all day, but where do you see sales enablement headed with AI? What's next?
Yeah, I mean, some of sales enablement with AI. I mean, the big piece is like our whole role is to help AEs, SEs, GTM teams ramp faster, and also to help them kind of navigate through these kind of the sales cycle, right, the most effectively.
Hmm.
So everybody's trying to do this, like Salesforce, Momentum, Gong, like all these players, Outreach.
Yep.
It's there's so the future. All right, I'm going to go backward a little bit. So I used to be an SE in the master data management space years ago, and it was all about like single view of customer or product across multiple disparate silos, right?
Sure.
And people spent millions of dollars for this solution to do that, and they still haven't fixed that problem, right? This is
No,
like
it will be there when it will be dead, and it'll still be a problem.
it's still happening. Like, and my buddies are still in that space, are still doing it, and so it's the same challenge here. Like, all these SaaS solutions that we have. I mean, some AEs have like 20, 30 solutions they're using, and there's still a challenge of data silos, pulling the data together. So in the future, that's one of the things I hope that will be addressed. Not only the holy grail of the brilliant video editing capabilities, which I don't know, we'll see how that can, something that helps us do that faster, but also like single view across multiple systems so that we can get an accurate depiction of the gap for that seller or that sales engineer. Because what happens is you're kind of like, their manager has an idea, their AE has an idea, I have an idea, and they're usually different. We're all touching the elephant at different spots, and one thinks it's a tree, that
Right.
whole that
Yeah.
whole
Sure.
allegory. So that's one piece of it, is just trying to more, and I think MCP servers and things like that are going to move us in that direction, but it's still hard for me to just get an accurate depiction. The other gap is just like, uh, I think it's going to be not necessarily enablement. It's almost like you need enablement to fix this stuff, because in the moment you can't coach them. If you could in the moment have an enablement guy pop up, like was it Clippy?
Yeah, Clippy. Let's bring back Clippy.
You have to mention Clippy in every AI session. But yeah, imagine if like and it's but in an unobtrusive, like super helpful way. That's what I think is the next step in this. Is like we have so much data, and the the summarization capabilities. Like I don't know if you've used Granola. I'm guessing because you were one of the first who was on your cutting edge, I would say, of meeting recordings and things like that.
Yeah, I've
Now it's
used a
like
lot of different ones. Yeah.
Granola is really good. So Zoom does it, and then Granola does it, and it's like a a fourth of the size of it, and it captures all the salient points. So there's I if you ask me if there was a space for that, I already have Zoom and it's already doing a summarization, but Granola is doing a much, there's an incrementally better job of that. Maybe Zoom gets better and the models get better or more standardized, but there's always going to be someone a little bit of ahead of the curve on, just how do I summarize things faster, but then how do I make decisions out of all this data, and what assets do I need, and what person on my team do I pull in at stage 3 where I'm going after, the proof of value, or a pre-meeting for proof of value with an economic buyer or something like that.
Right,
So
right.
more of those like situational, because that's when we learn a lot. Like my flat tire thing is like generally a sales rep or they'll do their homework for sure if they're new, especially, but they're going to care about the flat tire when their tire goes flat. And they're
Exactly.
probably not going to ramp. And if they ramped on it 6 months ago, they forgot everything about the changing a flat tire. So you just got to make sure you have the right asset in place when they need it at, situational consumption, snackable consumption of enablement resources, right time, right place type of stuff. That's kind of the future, is like getting all this data together, breaking down the data silos, and then having these, they're getting so much better at just giving you specific actions, instructions, and maybe even generating like, here's a digital room, here's a document that you should share with them. Just click this button to share it. So it's all this kind of just integration. It's still an integration game, I feel like.
Okay.
And they're getting there in terms of the smarts.
All right. Well, people heard it here first. There's problems with data still. So
I know
final
that's shocking.
final thought, Matt. What's the one key takeaway you want the listeners of this show to sort of walk away with?
Yeah, I mean, my big thing is obviously it's spooky, right? They're so smart, but they're still really dumb in a lot of ways. Like I think I read an article about how hallucinations are a mathematical inevitability. Like they're not going to all of a sudden not be able to hallucinate, no matter how many RAG, kind of documents or agentic flows you build into it, they're still not going to be perfect. They're still going to need a human in the loop. So years ago, we were doing a session on, I remember data loader for Hadoop, like, and there was some kind of like, we did a session and it was on like, this is like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And it was like, is AI going to take over? We were talking about then, and they still haven't, right? They're getting closer, right?
Right.
But the point is that it's one of augmentation. I think the future is still augmentation. You're still going to need this human in the loop. Maybe in 3 years, that changes a little bit and you need a human less, but we still need to have someone gluing everything together and someone kind of making sure it's not completely off the rails. And so I'm gonna speak for like a future of human augmented humans using AI as a tool to help them be more productive and do their jobs and help people get to, ramp faster and just, enjoy their lives more.
Well, I love that. So stay human, and you're a techno optimist, Matt. So I appreciate you joining the Data Faces podcast. You are the second person to wear the Aloha shirt, so thank you for that. And the first person to play a guitar on the show.
Right.
So that was amazing. So thank you so much, and we will see you on the flip side.
All right, David, thanks. Had a lot of fun. Good to see you.
Cheers. Bye.